This is Pastor Sincere, and we're getting ready to have another conversation. And you know that we bring various different topics and ideas to you. We talk about personal finance, we talk about mental health, and we talk about class, culture, and race. We talk about politics, but we also talk about education. And so, for this conversation with Pastor Sincere, we're going to talk to an individual that is running for Fort Bend ISD School Board. And we want to try to understand and give her an opportunity to explain her platform, why she's running, give us little background information about herself, and just sit down and relax and just have a conversation like we are at lunch, just sipping coffee and having fun. And so I want to introduce our special guest today. Her name is Angie. Angie, I am not going to try to pronounce your last name because I don't want to insult you. So why don't you introduce yourself and tell us who you are and kind of tell us a little bit of background information about you and that kind of stuff.
Sure. Well, my name is Angie Wierzbicki, and I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Pastor Sincere. I'm a parent of two children in Fort Bend ISD, and I've seen firsthand how important it is to have strong leadership in our schools. And I just have been watching the school board and the school district, and of course, my kids' school since they entered school in 2019. I've lived in Fort Bend since 2010. So for the last 15 years, I have immersed myself in the community through work and volunteer activities. Professionally, I've worked for nonprofits and local government, connecting resources for programs and projects to strengthen our community, mostly in Fort Bend, also a little bit in Houston. On a volunteer level, I've been extremely involved in the community, serving in leadership positions on boards and developing connections through various community leadership programs. And so that was only natural for me to get involved in Fort Bend ISD when my kids entered school in 2019. I was on the PTO board all the way from kindergarten, from when my kids were in kindergarten until this year when my oldest is fifth grade, and just became active in Fort Bend ISD issues, attending school board meetings to learn about the activities that affect our students and teachers, writing emails to board members on specific topics, speaking and organizing other speakers at board meetings on board action items that affect our students and staff. And I'm not one of those people that just waits for things to happen. When I see issues in the forefront, I try to be a part of making them happen.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that overview of concerning your background information and that kind of stuff. So what is your platform? What are you wanting to achieve by being on the school board?
Sure. I really have four main points that I've been running on, and it's one is strengthening our schools, which strengthens our community overall.
Mhm.
Two, it is increasing access to, not just to resources, but really increasing our literacy and academic success. And there's a variety of ways to do that. Three is improving special education. And I can go into each of these here in a few minutes if you'd like. And
Mhm.
four is really a big one, to be honest, is removing politics from the boardroom.
Okay. So kind of drill down in that a little bit and tell the viewers, some details concerning, that, what you want to do based on what you just articulated.
Sure. As far as The overarching strengthening our schools. Home buyers, they look for a location such as in Fort Bend, usually because they're looking for a location that has a good school district. They're moving to a location because they want to send their kids to the traditional public ISDs. They're not moving because there's a Harmony next door or a KIP down the road. If that happens, that happens. But usually, because traditional public ISDs educate 95% of our students in Texas, at least, people are moving to locations that have good school districts. So if Fort Bend ISD is a strong school district, then our community will be stronger, and not just the parents, but everybody who is a homeowner here. So I really believe that we need to continue to strengthen Fort Bend ISD rather than tear away at the public education system, and so that our community can be strengthened. Special education and increasing the academic success of our students. Both of those things, no board member can do single handedly, but it's working with the teachers, the staff, the experts. They're the experts,
Mhm.
the admin, and then, of course, the parents, and really just trying to improve the outcomes for our students through equitable decision making. For special education, part of that means the fact that we have doubled our special education numbers of kiddos who are enrolled in Fort Bend ISD over the last 10 years, and
Mhm.
without really significant increase in budget. So we are strapped financially to really ensure that our kids and our teachers are doing what they need to do to succeed. And then as far as the literacy and academic success, it's every school has different issues, and some schools, some students need more rigor, but some schools and some kids need more help, and we need to make sure we're not doing things in a cookie cutter pattern. I don't believe that we are, but we need to make sure we're paying attention. Just Quail Valley Elementary, where my kids go to, 40% of kids read below grade level,
Mhm.
and 50% of kids are at or families are at that low income, free and reduced uh, meal status. So we're kind of like right in the middle there, and
Mhm.
we want to make sure that as these some of these communities age, that we don't let them fall behind, and the ones that are already behind, that we're continuing to build those up, as well as of course the areas that are more maybe affluent or have some other resources that have outcomes that their kiddos are receiving what they need. Finally, removing politics from the boardroom. Education should be about the students and the teachers and those involved in those schools, not politics. Uh, a lot of board discussions over the last year or two, and a lot of votes that have come up, have been distracting us, and
Mhm.
distracting the teachers, the admin, the parents, and creating divisive culture wars. I want to make sure that we build an inclusive environment, and we're focusing on what truly matters, which is our students and our teachers and the educational outcomes for our district, and going back to strengthening that community. When we create and sow these seeds of division, when the leadership of the school district is doing that, uh, we're just spilling over to the nightly news instead of actually trying to do what public schools do best: educate our kids.
So, what are some of the different techniques that you would use to try to bring more of a cohesive nature to the school board and working with those that may uh, disagree politically or disagree from an ideology standpoint or a public education standpoint? What techniques would you use to try to foster a more cohesive board?
That's a great question. There is, again, no cookie cutter answer, no one way, but I believe the first thing is to listen. So we need to listen to the different parents, community groups, the different educators in our district, and is to listen to what their concerns are. And part of that is, I know the school board used to do listening sessions around the district, around the community, a few times a year. There was one in the early fall this year. That was the first one in several years. But I think more of those, maybe more focus groups, and in networking in within the neighborhoods. Of course, there was one board member can't do all of that, but to continue to work with the board, to and the administrative staff to coordinate that. They're strapped, as far as having a lot on their work, on their plate, the staff. So of course we'd have to make sure that that's within the realm. But if we're planning this out, we need to get ahead of the game, see what's on the agendas for those board meetings 6 months out, what we're planning on, the policies we're planning on discussing, and bring those to the communities that might be most affected. And really just have some one-on-one, but some candid conversations with those groups of folks, because as I think if we're transparent and we are proactive in our communication, it can go a long way. I find a lot of times the board and the district can sometimes get afraid of not wanting to hear bad feedback, and so they kind of get a little reclusive with certain things, and that is definitely not, whether they mean to or not, definitely not the way to build that trust within the community.
Okay. So I know that um, well, I'm a graduate of the Leadership Academy, the first class that graduated of 2018. And one of the things that was emphasized was the team or the gang of eight, right, of board members, really trying to, even though that they disagree, um, that's okay, but also trying to have a united front as a team of eight, um, which is really taught to school board members. What is your position on that?
The team of eight.
Hmm.
Um, there's going to be disagreements with the board, among board members, and even maybe among board members and the leadership team, the paid
Hmm.
leadership team. But we need to be respectful when we disagree,
Hmm.
and focus on the issues and not individuals. We need to make sure that our disagreements are not brought out into the community as a board, and and I think most people, you don't have to be best friends with everybody, but you have to be able to work with people, right?
Right.
And I think that when we're respectful and we respect, the majority rule of the decisions that are being made, even if we're not happy with those, whether it's me as a future hopeful board member or somebody else that may be on that minority side of the decisions, we, just like the Supreme Court, you take whatever that decision is, and then you have to respect it.
Okay. So I know that there is a lot of debate right now concerning school vouchers, public education, how much is being given to private dollars going that individuals can use to go to private schools versus how much is given to um, public school students that are, excuse me, that attend public school. What is your position on that?
I am not in favor of vouchers.
Okay.
I believe that the funds will be diverted from our public education system, hence weakening it. And we already don't receive enough funds. Texas is already in the bottom of 50 states per child of funding. And then, of course, I'm sure you've heard a lot of this, where private schools they charge more like 20,000 a year. So
Right.
if the parents are getting 10,000 a year, do we think any lower or middle income families are gonna be able to afford that other 10,000? No. I mean, I'm a proud middle working class family myself, and we would never be able to afford $10,000 a year for that. So when we're wanting to make equitable school choices for our kids, if we have to move them from a different school because of a certain atmosphere, every parent wants the best for their kid. But to literally give funds to folks who are already probably going to private school, it's just it's just weakening our public school system and really strengthening those who are already in the top of the societal ladder.
Mm, yeah, that has been a hot debate, but I think that it's passed the state senate.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
Oh, it's going to happen, right? So, what about charter schools? I mean, I know that that's also been a point of contention, even in Fort Bend ISD, in terms of some of your KIP academies um, um, coming into the area, um, and all of the above. What is your position on charter schools?
Although charter schools will bill themselves as a public school, they are not like our public ISD schools. They do
Mm-hmm.
not have a board of trustees to hold them accountable. They can say no to incoming students, which means they can say no to your kiddo who has disabilities. They can say no to the kids who have behavior issues or let them go after the first few months and realize that kid doesn't fit in here. Um, but one thing I think that a lot of people don't realize, besides those things, I think a lot of people hear about, is right now we have about 6,500 kids who are eligible to be Fort Bend ISD students, but are in charter schools, according to the school district or a consultant. A report that they did, about 6,500 kids who could be going to Fort Bend ISD schools are in our nearby charter schools, and they're growing every day. We have about 8 in the area, I think, in Fort Bend. Those 6,500 kids, each one of them, we get the school district gets $6,100 a year for that child. So, but
Mm-hmm.
now that they're in the charter school, that means this charter school is getting it. Fort Bend ISD is not. That's
Mm,
millions, multi millions of dollars a year that the school district is not receiving because of this, because of the charter schools in the area. And yes, there's choice. Parents want choice, but how can our school district strengthen itself and strengthen it for the community if we are not able to have those funds? Now, let's say you have 20 kids in a classroom and 2 of them go to a
mhm,
charter school. Well, you still need the same teacher, the same bus driver, the same janitorial staff for those 18 kids. You still need the same resources, but now you have $1,200 less a year because of those 2 kids. And of course, that's on a multiplied level. So
right,
it's negatively affects the ability this district has to really continue and build, especially when Fort Bend ISD specifically, we're not growing like we used to. I
right,
mean, we will have a couple new schools in the next few years, and that's probably it. We did our fast growth, and now we're stabilizing. So we're not going to be adding a lot more kids just by growing new home subdivisions.
right. So I was um, raised in the Missouri City area, in the Briargate area, in the Willow Ridge feeder pattern. Um,
Go
I met my
Eagles.
wife in that area. We've been knowing each other since the 10th grade. And so we were both raised in Fort Bend ISD, in Fort Bend, and went to Fort Bend ISD schools. Even when we were younger, there's always been this east side, west side contention and debate and equity on the east side and west side and all of that kind of stuff. What is your position on east side, west side? Being a trustee, you're going to have to represent the entire district, all the students. Um, Talk to the viewers about that. What's your position on that?
Well, first, I feel like I should be asking you what you think because you obviously have more experience than I do living here for as long as you have your whole life, pretty much, and growing up through the school district. And so I'd love to learn more about your thoughts as well.
Mhm. Mhm.
But you're right. I've heard this too. Just in the last 15 years that I've lived here, I've heard this whole thing too. And I think we need to listen to our community members that are in those communities that are, let's say, on the east side. We need to, of course, the west side. We need to listen to every community member. But I mean, the folks who were, Willow Ridge has just gotten out of their targeted improvement, which is great. They're making strides with their academics, and Marshall's next, right? The feeder pattern.
Mhm.
And I think that this is, um, as a school board member, I would hope that I would be, and that we all would be open to, like, look, things maybe, um, things aren't done the same old way. If we've been struggling this long, right, with this soft-spoken division and equitable resources, and also and trying new things. What those things are, I can't pinpoint right now, but I think we need to be open to it, and I think we need to work with the community members on what they are. I know that there is an MOU right now that has been approved for Willow Ridge feeder pattern with Super Neighborhood 41.
Right.
It's not going to start until they have this curriculum audit, because it's going to follow the curriculum for Fort Bend ISD. But I think that's a great step in trying to kind of see if that will make continue to build and improve the academic success for those students, and the opportunities there. And I think, whether that's the same step for Marshall or not, I don't know. I think every community, even within the east side, each feeder pattern has their own, and the west side, each feeder pattern has their own things that make them special. Willow Ridge has history, as you know, and Briargate. I mean,
Right.
there's history there. So that's going to be different than other places. So I think it's really just about making it specific to each school and feeder pattern, and listening to the boots on the ground.
Okay. Well, since we're switching positions and now you're interviewing me by asking me my
Yes.
thoughts concerning that question, I'll give you my thoughts on it holistically. I believe that different areas in the district have different needs. Um, they have different cultures, whether they're based on racial or ethnic dynamics or cultural or class dynamics. But I think that we have to have some cultural competency and cultural humility and cultural sensitivity and listen to everybody and be able to have more targeted curriculums, more targeted uh, identifying, doing some feasibility studies and finding out what the different kids need in different areas and seeing if we can work with the parents, listen to the community to provide those needs because the needs are different. I live in Siena, but a lot of work that we've done in the past, it's been in the Briargate area. We've mentored hundreds of kids in the Briargate area. We've had a mentoring program in every single school, elementary school in that area, and also in the middle school. But listening and learning and listening to the needs of the kids, the needs of the parents, having good data to be able to use. And then I think one of the other important things is to um, try to break down the barriers within different communities. I think the more time that we spend together, we can build a stronger relationships with our students as well as our community. Fort Bend County is the most diverse county in the country. That's what they tell me.
Mhm.
But Fort Bend County can also be tribal in
Right.
different communities. So, if we can do that, the final thing that I'll say about it, and then we'll switch positions back where I can interview you instead of you interviewing me, is I think that we we not only need to focus on our academics, we want all of our kids to do well academically. We all want the best for our kids, to have the best resources in all of the above. But I also, would hope that as a community, the different social stratifications, that we can in Fort Bend County set a goal and lead concerning how we treat one another,
Mm-hmm.
down from the adults all the way down to the kids, where we have honor and respect for one another, even though we disagree with one another, which seems to be very challenging in our country right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that in Fort Bend County, we have an opportunity to lead the nation because of our diversity. We don't always have to agree, but how we communicate with one another, respecting, here again, whatever race you are, culture, ethnic group, religion, whatever. Um, I think that if we are able to listen and learn and realize that we may have more in common than we have differences, we can lead this nation and be a example for all of America, which will open up the doors of opportunities for our kids because they will learn how to be able to mix and mingle with anybody. They would have been exposed to various different people, and learn to appreciate our differences instead of letting our differences divide us. So let's switch back. That's my
No,
take.
I love it. And I'm so glad to hear. I'm in complete agreement. So I love it. I'm glad to know that I, I think highly of you. And I think that your opinion is, it speaks of experience and here and lived experience here. So I appreciate it. I like tagging on to that though, real quick. I don't know if you have another question, but I agree. Like my kids who are in fourth and fifth grade at Quail Valley, and just living here in Missouri City and Fort Bend. And I take them, I'm very, I obviously I realize, every family is different, but I take them out and do things in the community all the time. And I love knowing, now I grew up in a small town before I actually went to, middle school, I moved to the Chicago suburbs. But before that, I was in a small town in Iowa and surrounded by white people and not a lot of other culture, a lot of Christians, but not a lot of other religious affiliation. And so to see my kids at that age, and they see women with hijabs, they see people of all races and ethnicities and experience, and I actually, within the school district to some extent, but also we actively kind of like engage them in conversation about the different religions. Although I'm not an expert on any of that, all of them. I want them, and because they're here, they see it in front of them, and they see the
Mhm.
different people, and I'm just so proud and excited to live here. That the kids are, I think a lot of our kids that age and older, really too. I mean, that are in school right now. This is their life. This is what they know, and I love that for them. So.
Yeah, because we all have to live here together, right?
Mhm.
And we're all shaped by our experiences, various different things that have happened to us. But in that, we have to decide on what type of America we want to have. One that is built on division and vilifying each other and all of the above, or one where we can learn to have uh, um, a cordial conversation. And sometimes, even those conversations, sometimes we have to have the uncomfortable conversations, but we can do it with respect and pass that on to our kids. And so I really believe in that. I'm not perfect, even as a pastor. I'm not perfect, but that's what I strive for every day. Here's my next question for you. So, um, and feel comfortable if you don't want to answer certain questions. You don't have to. We love everybody. So there's been a big controversy concerning critical race theory, DEI, all of these different things that are really charged. They've been charged conversations, and you know, we talk about equity, in our communities and that kind of stuff. What is your position on that? Um, Really, in terms of education, we don't have to get into the other stuff, but just in terms of education, how do how would you on a school board with other school board members look to address some of these different things that is really uh, hot right now in terms of topic and division within our community?
So I haven't had to answer this question yet. So if I stumble over some of my words, forgive me.
You're fine. You're
But
fine.
I do believe that our diversity makes us stronger.
Hmm.
But it isn't so much about being, yes, we're in the most diverse county in America, or in the or maybe this, whatever it is, America or wherever. But it's not just about the diversity; it's about the inclusion and acceptance. And like you've really shared already too, it's we need to be open-minded about learning about other races and cultures, and accepting of them, even if and really and welcoming of it, because we have more in common than we do that's different. And if we were, there is a lot of division, and some, neighborhoods pit against neighborhoods. But I think if we were to, regarding, I guess, getting back to the regarding the if I am have been floored by at the national level. I actually, for my job, I write in federal grants for Harris County, and so I am floored at the the way we've had to completely take out anything regarding any DEI, and that isn't just about if you're black, white, Hispanic, woman, or man. That is about our people with disabilities, our people
Right.
with lower SES, socioeconomic status. It is a much broader scope there. And I think if we are to teach our kids kindness and acceptance, um, that in our schools, which is what I think most people want, we also have to model it as community members. And that means, having those respectful conversations and learning about the other person and the other community. And I think I love when my kids come home. I mean, every year they come home and they've got their colored picture of Martin Luther King Jr. and
Mhm.
tell me the story. I mean, and like ask Alexa to play that I Have a Dream speech. I love it. I mean, and then I do ask them more critical thinking questions about it, but they get it. I mean, it's in a way that's, for an elementary student, but they do get it. And I think that if we're not teaching those things in school, yeah, sure, as a parent, an active parent, maybe I'm teaching that to my kids, but not every parent is. So we need to make sure our schools are ensuring too that we're addressing history, addressing the needs in the community, and addressing all the things that is people that I guess where I'm getting at is that people are not everybody in the world is just like you. So,
Right.
and you need to know that. And if these kids are at school 40 hours a week, that is a place they should learn that at.
Right.
I just
So
rambled a bit. I'm sorry.
no, you're
But like
fine.
I said, I hadn't really answered that question yet.
We're just having a conversation like we are having lunch or at a
Awesome.
family
Okay.
gathering. Just be relaxed, and we're not trying to look, all about all the glamour and all of that kind of stuff. We just want to sit down and be able to have a cordial, honest conversation about where we stand on these issues. And sometimes we have to really think it through. I'm glad that I'm the first person that asked you that question, right? So I'm special. So,
Yes,
um,
yes.
so here's my last question, and you alluded to this earlier in terms of the achievement gaps within certain schools within the Fort Bend ISD school district.
Mhm.
What would you do specifically, to help bridge the achievement gaps um, amongst certain schools within our district that are really being challenged with trying to perform at the level that we know that they can.
So, I say this in all honesty that I don't have I don't have an academic background. I don't know all the curriculum specifics that are out there. But what I do know is, you know, students in certain areas and neighborhoods, and it doesn't mean the whole school, but some students in certain neighborhoods, they're not going to have the socio emotional support that other students have. They're not going to
Mm.
have the parental involvement or availability, even if their parents love them, that other students have. And so we need to make sure that the district is addressing whatever those needs are. And it doesn't mean, oh, this school or this feeder pattern gets, all these resources. Well, they may need more resources. And that's
Mm.
okay if we're trying to, the whole like equity and equal picture where you have the kids standing on the ladder with the apple tree. We're
Right.
trying to get everybody to start here together so they can all go up here. Then we need to at least bring the students or in that feeder or whatever schools right here. We need to at least get them to the same starting point. Maybe that
Hmm.
means more pre-K classes. Maybe that means more, counselors or tutors that are paid by the district or volunteers that we know in the community that already do this. But would and that may mean it, like, for example, Willow Ridge or Marshall, those may mean different things, like, because each
Right.
area is different. So I think though we have to make sure that we are not leaving those kids or those students behind, and that they're getting the whole package. Because they're going to be able to learn more and achieve more and decide what they're going to do in their academic and career path more if they also have other needs taken care of too. And so that's not a clear cut answer, but I hope that it makes sense, that it's, we're, as I would hope that and I think, I believe that the school district realizes all of that, continues to
Mhm.
try to do that, but we can always, we continue to need to do better.
Okay. So, what position are you running for in Fort Bend ISD? And give the viewers a kind of a brief understanding how this whole election system works in Fort Bend ISD. And do you have to campaign throughout the district, or is it just in one area? How so that we can get an understanding of how that works?
Great. I thank you for that question as well, because I think a lot of people, as you probably know, don't understand it. As far these there's an election in May. so, um, so yes, I am running for position 7. Um, there is another position that's up, another seat that's up too, and that's called position 3. And what I live on the east side, in uh, near Quail Valley, not in Quail Valley, but I live on the east side,
Mhm.
and so that means that's position 7. And but everybody that lives in Fort Bend ISD can vote for me. The person who runs for position 3 lives on the west side, but still that means everybody that lives in Fort Bend ISD can vote for them. And we have about 250, 300,000 registered voters or eligible voters in Fort Bend ISD. We get about 15,000 people, I think, that turn out for the polls at the end of April and beginning of May. This
Mhm.
year, early voting starts April 22nd and runs through April 29th. And then May 3rd, it's a Saturday, is election day.
Okay.
It is the same time frame for the city of Sugar Land elections, a few other city elections. Missouri City moved theirs back to November, or to November several years ago. So folks may not realize, that live in Missouri City may not all realize, oh, well, then also school boards in May, even if the city's not. But if you're not registered, or you already moved, or you moved recently, I mean, you need to be re-registered at your new address, and that's by April 3rd. So if you're not registered or you've moved, you need to register by April 3rd to vote in this election. But yes, the campaign for either position 3 or my position 7 that I'm running for, it's all throughout Fort Bend ISD, and it's a big, and I mean Fort Bend ISD is the biggest employer in the county, so I mean it's a big deal as far as, you know, people don't think school board. I even myself, before my kids were in school, I probably didn't pay attention like I should have, but anybody who lives here needs to be paying attention.
Okay. So here's the big question. I said 2 questions ago, this is the last question, but here's the big question that I know that everyone wants to hear from you. Why should we vote for Angie? If you had one opportunity to give your elevator pitch, why should we vote for Angie?
Because I will restore balance to the board. I will be a voice for all, and because I care about every person in this district. I know it sounds like a bit, you know, kind of idealistic, but I will come to the table for those who need it. And I have no political agenda other than improving our schools for our kids, our teachers, and ultimately our community.
Okay.
That's very simple, but that's where I'm going to land on today.
Okay. All right. That's fine. That's fine. Remember, we just eating donuts or eating a salad, just having a conversation with Pastor Sincere. Well, we're so happy. We're proud to have you, honored to have you with us today. I hope that this particular session helps our viewers and those that live in Fort Bend County to get a little bit better understanding of who you are as a person, as well as your platform and what you would like to do to help our kids in Fort Bend ISD. We appreciate you for joining us today. And you have a wonderful day. I know it's raining outside, so don't get too wet. But other than that, we'll see what happens at the polls. And good luck to you. And we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
All right. Talk to you later.
All right.
Bye-bye.